topic for the forum is opportunities for activism in Austin. And a lot of opportunities have been becoming apparent lately. And I've noticed when church members ask me questions, they're really confused about what group is doing what. So I used my experience as an educator to create a chart to help everyone understand the difference. So we have TUC over here, and this is Unity Temple. And they came together to form Action in Austin. But before we talk about Action in Austin, we're going to talk about a previous political group of Unitarians that was formed before that. So Rich, when did UUANI, when was it formed approximately?
Well, it's been still forming, and it started, gosh, almost 3 years ago, and had some fits and starts and didn't get too far until Scott Ossing kind of came on board with his ideas of community organizing. So really, getting out and doing actions in the last year and a half or so.
Right, so this is the group that I think Scott learned a lot of his activism from CRS.
That's where he got a lot of, he actually worked, you folks know Scott.
Oh,
he
sure.
had also been at a Lutheran cooperative village for years and learned community organizing there too previously and got refreshed with CRS, yeah.
Right, so the interdependence of all these relationships.
Community Renewal Society,
right.
A faith-based community organizing group, I'm sorry.
Right, so that's one of the groups that has been working with Action in Austin, and that is where Scott got a lot of his training that he took to the UUANI. Now, UUANI is the group that organized the March to Springfield that Rich went on, I went on that, Brian went on that, Jamie Boyce went on that. And on that day, a little bit before marriage equality was passed in Illinois, I would guesstimate there were 2,000 to 3,000 people there. The estimates I heard from other organizations went from 1,000 to 5,000. I just looking around, I was like counting people in a group and multiplying. So I would say it would be between 2,000 and 3,000, which is right in the middle, so that makes sense. And we had over 200 Unitarians there.
I think it's actually closer to 300 from 23 different congregations.
So probably at least 10% of the people that marched on Springfield in support of marriage equality were Unitarian. And they were organized by this group. And now they're organizing a lobby day and working on the Clean Power Plan. That was the petition that I've been asking everybody to sign because Jennifer is going to go on that lobby day. So we have Rich Pokorny from UT here to explain more to us about what UUANI is doing and the upcoming lobby day on April 22nd. Okay, great.
Thank you. Glad to be here. I think a lot of you know I'm from Unity Temple and been over at your great church a number of times. Jerry, hi. And I see Jerry at everything I go to, practically. I'll just sharpen up a little what Karen said about UUANI. Scott Ossing, when he was our intern minister, when he was interning to convert from Lutheran to Unitarian minister, kind of came up with this idea of taking the CRS, the Community Renewal Society, community organizing, congregational organizing model into a church too, not just for Community Renewal Society, but that within the church one could organize for other things as well by bringing people together. And then after he did a pretty good job of that, and we are still struggling with that. We don't have this down yet by any means at Unity Temple, but we are working on it. I think it is a great model for the future for Unitarian Universalists and perhaps other denominations, I would say, as well. But he formed this idea of doing it now, broadening it out to all of Illinois. There's quite a number of other
states. For Unitarians,
for
right?
Unitarians,
for
yes.
Unitarians.
There's a lot of other Unitarian Universalist state action networks. Massachusetts, Michigan, Wisconsin, California. I think there's about 20 of them altogether. So it's a model that's been out there. But Scott brought the idea of really making it heavily community organizing, congregational organizing. When you look around at our congregations in, say, just the Illinois area, I think we have about 30 or 35 congregations. These must represent 5 or 10,000 people. We have a lot of power there if we can mobilize it, okay? Now, there's always a tendency in every Unitarian church, probably, and most other denominations, I suspect, too, for everyone to want to go off and do their own thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not against that. If something really pulls you to work on that issue, that's great. But what you have to realize is 1 or 2 or 3, 5 people working on an issue doesn't have a lot of power, unless you somehow have a lot of money or a lot of pull with somebody. And I want to give 2 examples of this. First of all, you guys, I know you used to have Danny Davis turn out for an event every year. You showed Danny Davis enough power that it was worth his time to come out here to your event. But you did that because, and I wasn't involved in that, but clearly you did that because you showed him a lot of people and he needed to show up. Most elected officials, they're not going to show up. If I invite somebody to my house or something, their first question is going to be, you know, is this worth my time? You showed Danny Davis it was worth his time. We did the same. Some of you, I think Jerry was there, and some of you others, at Village Hall when they, at Oak Park Village Hall when they passed the brown energy thing, when they kind of, in a rush, kind of screwed up and didn't do the green energy, did the brown energy. I don't want to go into the issue too much, but there was about 150 people showing up to Village Hall to protest that. 50 of them were from Unity Temple. Now, I'm not bragging because you guys have done the same, so this is not bragging, it's just pointing out a point. The next Sunday, I always miss his name, Abu
Taleb. Anan Abu Taleb.
Anan, yeah, the village.
Anan.
My
Village
apologies.
Village Press.
He had a golf tee time every Sunday, okay? He's apparently a decent golfer. He skipped this tea time and showed up to Unity Temple for our early service to make Nicey nice because we had 50 people there. So what I want to say is an example here, an example at Unity Temple of when we learn to use our numbers and show our power, it matters. You can get people's attention, you can make them show up, you can have an influence on them, which 2 or 5 individuals, not so likely. You can certainly have your voice, but you may not win anything. And so what UUANI is about is 3 things in my mind. 1, developing good organizing skills within congregations so that Third Unitarian, Unity Temple, Evanston Unitarian, whichever Unitarian church can work on its local issues. It knows how to organize. It's not that you don't know, but it's getting into the practice of it. It's like riding a bicycle, you know. You can learn all about riding bicycles, but if you don't ride them, then you're not a bicycle rider, okay? If you organize within your congregation on a regular basis, then you're an organized congregation. And a lot of us are not. You know, we want to shoot off in all different directions, and we don't organize with power. You have done it, we have done it sometimes too. Secondly, it's organizing among the congregations, okay? Each congregation may have its own issues, but there's some that we're going to have in common, and turning out with power, with numbers from every congregation, not just dribs and drabs. And thirdly, organizing with other groups. So the example of the marriage equality where we had 200 or 300 people show up from 23 congregations, we're a good 10%, maybe more of the numbers that showed up in Springfield from all over the state. We brought together a bunch of congregations on an issue that was common to us with other groups, and we showed up and we won. Community Renewal Society has learned how to do this with their 60 or 70 greater Chicagoland area congregations where they can turn out 500 or 600 people to Springfield because they have all these congregations who know about organizing and will turn people out on the bus. So that's what this is about, is those 3 things. Organizing within your congregation so you have the capability of doing something locally with your alderman here or in Oak Park or wherever. Organizing among us ourselves to find common issues, and then organizing with outside groups to really go out with power. Our next one is the Environmental Lobby Day. We'll be there with Faith in Place, created by Claire Butterfield, a Unitarian minister. And Sierra Club will be there, and Environment Illinois, and a bunch of other groups. So we're going to show up. We're going to try to get a couple of 100 Unitarian Universalists out there. Love to see your, and Jerry, I suspect I will see you there. If I was a paranoid, I think you were following me, because everywhere I show up, I always see Jerry. You know.
Rich, is this it?
Yes, it is. Thank you. Yeah, it's a climate justice. I don't want to go into all the details of that. You can read that on the web. But so There's, in community organizing, they talk about two kinds of power. Organized money, which we don't have so much of, and organized people. But we have, like I say, 5,000 or 10,000 people in Illinois in our churches. If we can organize them, we can turn out, and we can make a real difference here and there. Right now, we have, our board consists of Dale Griffin from Evanston Unitarian, Scott Ossang, Kaya Iverson from DuPage Unitarian, Margaret Shankley from Evanston, Julie Prandy from Bloomington Normal, and myself from Unity Temple. So we've got a little bit of a spread. We want to find people who really want to get involved in this issue. It's not going to be, we don't have the capacity to focus on dozens of issues right now. We need to, we're not a big organization, we're just in the formative stages really. So we need to focus on 1 or 2 things a year, not everything out there. So we need to find those issues common to all of us, but not just common to all of us, the ones where people will turn out. And that's where you can develop your power, is when you do the community organizing, you find out what are the issues that are really resonating within your congregation. Not what 1 or 2 people want to do, but what will really turn out numbers, and work on those. It's not to say people can't work on their own issues. It's to say, as a congregation, we're going to choose, and as an organization with UUANI, we're going to choose issues that we can get real turnout on. So it's a different model than what we have seen before. I don't want to criticize other groups, but we have UUs for Social Justice. They're working on a little different model of more education and email and action alerts and things. This is more of a power orientation, which we have not done terribly effectively before. I don't know if you have any questions on that. I don't want to go on too long. But I would invite you to join us on Lobby Day. You've each got a brochure about UUANI. If you have not yet registered for the bus, the quickest way to register for that bus, and it's only about $20, it's subsidized by one of the environmental groups. Go to faithinplace.org and it will lead you to register for the bus. There's one leaving Oak Park that still has room on it. There's others leaving from other areas in Chicago. When you go to the website, you'll register for the specific bus. So faithinplace.org. It will lead you to another site through a link to register for the bus. And I can't remember what that link is, but that was the easiest way I found to register for it.
Look at events, Roger. At the top.
Yeah, he looked up Facebook.
Right.
And is there anything else I wanted to cover here?
When is this?
This is April 22nd. It's coming up in just a couple of weeks here now.
Oh,
So
Earth Day.
Yeah, Earth Day. So I would register really soon, if you can. And we'll have some training on the bus for talking to your legislators. This is part of the developing community organizing, how to talk to your legislator. We're going out in groups. Who is your legislators, if you don't know, and things like this, so that when you show up, you're not showing up to somebody who doesn't know you. You're showing up to somebody, I'm your constituent, and I'd like to speak with you. So.
Okay, so yeah, you had a question?
Is there anything that you guys have used that around the issue of climate justice that seems to have an impact locally? I mean, it doesn't matter where on the planet you live, you've got to be concerned about climate justice, but in terms of pollution or jobs that could be had or other.
Thank you for that leading question. That's what this is about. This is about clean jobs, clean energy, and the title is Clean Jobs. And I'm not super well versed on this, I have to confess. There's 3 aspects to it. I think I can only think of 2. One is the clean jobs for renewables, to create jobs in renewables like wind power, solar power, regenerative things. The other one is a carbon tax on carbon emissions. So for coal plants, to begin to up the cost of polluting and subsidize other things. So thank you for that question, though.
So Rich, that's all part of the Clean Power Plan, right?
Right.
That's all, the Clean Power Plan that we've had petitions available to sign, that's all prongs of the Clean Power Plan.
Yes.
So, Julie?
I'll be honest with you, I have a concern about this bill. And the reason is it's all about carbon and not about nuclear power, which is probably dirtier and more dangerous than carbon is more immediately. And this bill really supports nuclear power. My concern is that Exelon is also looking to rehabilitate its nuclear plants, looking for money in Springfield at the same time. So I fear if this bill is passed the way it is, Exelon is going to get the money it wants to restore its nuclear plants, of which there are more in Illinois than any other state. So what I would suggest, I think clean jobs, clean energy is great. I have solar panels on my home, and 2 people in Oak Park installed them. Local jobs, green energy.
Yeah, and there's always that possibility for local efforts too. This is,
There are
Yes,
two
right.
bills, right? There's a bill there's a clean energy bill that's being pushed by ComEd, and there's a clean energy jobs
Yes.
bill.
this
that's
is,
being
this
pushed
one,
by-
this bill does not, my understanding is, I've not
no.
read it, but it does not promote
No, what
nuclear
it does,
energy.
it does not say nuclear energy is dirty. They call it a clean power source because it doesn't produce carbon.
Well,
It's
no,
all about carbon
This
dioxide.
is not to expand
But
nuclear.
that's what
This is-
number 3 in the bill says.
This is to expand regenerative, not nuclear
There
power.
are-
Now, I
It's
understand.
by
the nu-
omission, it's by omission, but
Yeah.
my only suggestion is if you're there to lobby, just tell the legislators you're talking to, you do not want nuclear power supported.
Yeah, okay,
Okay, that's my
Yeah.
point.
Okay, and we had one more question. Was there another question?
yeah.
I just like to suggest, remind the leaders that everybody do not have email, you know, so that we can get information.
Yeah, and that's why I've passed out. Did you get a brochure?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you, good.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank
Okay,
you for your
thank
time.
you,
Thank you.
Okay, so just to make sure everybody's making the connection, the Clean Power Plan, the petitions we've been asking people to sign, they were attached to the email newsletter. They've been available at Coffee Hour. I forgot them today. But for Jennifer to go to some training, she has to have enough of these petitions. And I do believe 2 other people are going. Does anybody know who's planning on going with Jennifer? Jennifer is planning on going the 22nd. So if you want to go, she probably would be a good person to talk to. All right, so the UUANI formed and had the big success at marriage equality, the March on Springfield. Now they're working on environmental issues, and they're going to Springfield on Earth Day. And next I thought we would talk about what is Action in Austin. So people have heard about that group, and so Martha was one of the people who helped form the group, so she's going to share with us how Action in Austin came about.
So, hi, I'm Martha Glenn. I'm a member of TUC's Board of Directors, and I've been a member here, I don't know, maybe 7 years or so. And when I first joined Third, I joined a task force group. We wanted to look at kind of like a community assessment. What's going on in Austin? What are the community needs in Austin? By training, I'm a nurse, and so I'm very familiar with making assessments and even doing, and I really like community work. So we had a group and we talked to all kinds of people, and even one of our members went and met with Danny Davis and said, Danny, we've heard all these things about Austin. There's needs for health, there's needs for jobs, there's needs for better relations with the police department and the members of the community. We have needs for decent food and improved housing. What do you think what is the greatest need? And his answer to our group was, there's so many needs, whatever you do is good. Whatever hole you want to plug or project you want to fix, it's all good. So then we did an assessment of our TUC community, and we asked them, what are the things that you would like to see TUC do? And we sat down one-on-one with all these people, and we sent out questionnaires, and we talked to like 80 people, and we got 80 different answers.
80 different holes.
Yeah, so it kind of, it didn't really like come out like, okay, this is, something we could do, and then it just kind of, fell a little bit to the side, and then we started, I think, doing some kind of building within our own community and reaching out with like TUC and Unity, having the beer fest. Jamie Boyce at the time was our membership director here at TUC, but a long-term member of Unity, and then left TUC, went to Unity, and you might have to remind me what the title is.
It was
Community.
community organizing, something, I can't
Coordinator.
remember it. Yeah,
Coordination,
something like
right.
that.
Faith in action.
Faith in
Right,
action.
so she's like the
coordinator.
faith
Thank
and
you. You got
action
it.
coordinator, and she had, through our auction, I'm also a member of the auction committee, bought a seat at our beer tasting. And so beer is like very central to how everything kind of came about. So we drank some beer, and then Jamie and I started talking, and I said, wouldn't it be great? You have a long-term relationship with TUC. You have this great relationship with Unity. Unity is growing by leaps and bounds, and TUC is not so much. Wouldn't it be great if we had opportunities to work together, to strengthen our internal and our relationships with one another, to look at maybe some maybe big projects, little projects, I don't know. It's kind of like, we shouldn't just live in a bubble,
Yeah.
right? We have to reach out to others, and like Rich was saying, this is developing power, because we don't have the same kind of power here in our bubble as we do if we reach out with others, and we have opportunities for children, for our young families, for intergenerational work, and so that's really how a lot of this started. And then we started meeting here and asking people who wanted to come and join us to just talk about what TUC and Unity could do. And so a lot of ideas got kind of thrown around. CRS was a big one. I think a lot of members are somewhat familiar with CRS. I don't think this has been something that TUC has had a strong relationship with. And so I think we're just like at that place where we're like willing to explore the techniques that CRS has of doing an assessment of your community and a listening campaign and strengthening these relationships within and without our bigger group. And it's interesting because we have all these groups, but what we have are people, and people we've had relationships with for a long time. And we have friends here in our community who joined us, who aren't members of TUC, members of the neighborhood who got on the bus with us on Martin Luther King Day and went down. So I think I'm really energized by this work and excited that we've kind of broken through some of the barriers maybe that we've had in our minds with one another. So.
Okay, thank you. Oh, wait, question, sorry.
Questions? Dorothy.
I understand from what I picked up, by being in third, that you're emphasizing volunteers working in groups that already exist in Austin, and I think that's a very good approach. Can somebody come to you and find out how they can volunteer in the food pantry in Austin? Are you a resource
Yes.
Yeah.
group?
Yeah, I mean, that is one of the things that we decided that, it would be silly for us to create some sort of entity when there are entities already that are doing good work, like the sisters at the Fraternity of Notre Dame. They have a food pantry, they do great things. It would be silly for us to make our own food pantry, so we've been joining them, and Karen, myself, I mean, any of our group here that have, Gail, Jerry, Jerry's been a good volunteer, and
Retired almost.
yeah,
It's easy.
it's easy. But you know, I mean, the other thing that I would like to see happen is people volunteering for these projects together, not just volunteering by themselves, because it really is about our relationships with one another and deepening those relationships, and you know, so, and not just doing it for the sake of being a good volunteer.
So how do you do that? I mean, does like, do you have a list of things that you think people should go to, or how do you do it as a group?
Well, this has already been in the This Week at TUC. This is all the information you need about this particular effort is in there.
So you mean just pick an effort that's being publicized?
Well, I'm just saying if you're interested in this one. We're going to talk about the other things that are going on, but this is one that is well established and you can start volunteering right away if you want.
What is it?
It's a food pantry. Okay, so this is a food pantry that is at 500 North Central. It's run by, how do you say it in French?
Sisters of Notre Dame.
Yeah, okay, let's say it in English, thank you. So, really great group. I volunteered there. They took over this dilapidated church and painted it, and then their heat went out last winter, and they had, how much was it? It was just an unbelievable amount of money to fix it. Like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
$200,000.
Yeah, to fix their heating. They were living there with no heat. And they were on the local news, I forget which station. Channel 5, and they ended up getting funding from the public to replace their heat. But they have a food pantry. They on Wednesdays they have a soup kitchen almost every day of the week, and they work a lot with homeless men. And so they provide all kinds of services, but it's really on a shoestring. If you've ever volunteered at the Oak Park River Forest Food Pantry, it's the exact opposite of that. They are so organized and they are just doing everything. You know, they just go out and try to get stuff, and what they get, they find somebody to give it to. That's how they operate. They're not very sophisticated, but they really, really are meeting people where they are at, you know, homeless, helping them survive. It's really pretty inspiring, right? Yeah.
Well, just one comment, one brief question too. Yeah, I think what you said about the Sisters of Notre Dame is really true. And the Oak Park Food Pantry, I understand, has a whole bunch of training processes and things that they have an excess of volunteers. The Sisters of Notre Dame, you can really do a lot of good very quickly by jumping in there. They really need it, and they're really doing a great job. Question, we've struggled with this at Unity Temple. I just want to see what you had. Listening campaigns, really getting out and doing the one-on-ones or doing a listening campaign. How far along are you at
Oh, we
third?
haven't started.
No.
Okay, we're still kind of
Yeah.
Baby
struggling
steps.
to push that along. Yeah,
We don't listen yet.
Yeah, just about the Community Renewal Society. I went to the Martin Luther King Day rally, and two things they obviously committed to were ending police brutality and jobs, especially jobs for people with a record. And wondered if we've done any exploring of how we can get active in those issues. I know we've already done some stuff around the police brutality, and Jennifer has been to the West Side Ministers at least once. That
Well,
group, but
Okay, so we can go to CRS next, because as you know, we're following our diagram here. We've got Action in Austin, and these are some of the opportunities that church members at both Unity Temple and TUC these opportunities are available to you to get involved. And CRS is the Community Renewal Society. They have several campaigns. What they are, and they've presented here, if that sounds familiar, the woman from CRS presented a whole forum on CRS. And they have campaigns, and what they do is they have member organizations, churches and community groups, and they meet and they come up with campaigns, like what concerns most of the members, like what do people, like Rich was saying, with the Unitarian churches, marriage equality was an issue that all the Unitarian churches cared about. So that CRS does the same thing with their groups, and they come up with campaigns, and one of them is working on police brutality and mass incarceration. I went to, on March 19th, I went to a protest at Anita Alvarez's office, protesting the way bond is handled in Cook County, where if you don't have money for a bond, you go to jail, and you might end up being innocent of what you're charged with, and you lose your job because you spend so much time in jail. So they're looking at bond reform, and that's the great thing about CRS. They don't just go protest police brutality. They have definite things that they want to happen. And they met with Mayor Emanuel. They had to have a protest to get him to meet with them, but he did meet with them the Saturday before the runoff, which was last Tuesday, right? So they met with him last Saturday. He was very polite, but he would not commit to any of the items on CRS's agenda. So, you know, reducing the number of prisoners in Cook County, the bond reform, when police who are wearing the cameras now, when they should have them on, when they can turn them off. Now it's up to the individual officer. So they have very specific demands. And Chuy Garcia, I think, I don't know if he committed to all of them or most of them. I think all of them, right?
At MLK, well, he and the other 4 challengers were there. Emmanuel didn't show, but they all committed to most. I think the demands have changed slightly since then, but they committed in general to those things. Yes.
Yeah, so that was the point of the Martin Luther King Day celebration, where people went to this event, and the politicians come and you try to get them to commit to the platform that CRS has. So anyway, we as a church eventually will have to vote and decide if we want to join. Because right now we're working through the membership at UT. Like, I'm going to the events, but it's because UT is a member. Yeah.
Years ago, Brian Koval had CRS people out, and they talked to, I think it was the board at that time?
Well, they talked at Forum too.
Oh, at Forum too. And Brian wrote CRS a check for $50, which was like membership for a congregation for a year or something. But it dropped. That's where it dropped.
Well, I would prefer we vote on it as a congregation rather than and the board feels that way too, right? They would rather.
Yeah, I don't think it was voted.
No, it's never been voted on.
Thing. Yeah.
Is that on the agenda for like the annual meeting, or it's on the? So we will vote on joining CRS at the annual meeting, which is coming up in May, correct? Okay. So with Action in Austin, we've got involvement in CRS. If you want to volunteer at a food pantry or soup kitchen that serves the West Side, that is available to you. This is something